3 days ago, something happened that sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. ByteDance, the Chinese company behind TikTok, released an AI model called Seedance 2.0. You give it a text prompt, and it generates cinematic video. Full storylines, multiple camera angles, consistent characters, lip-synced dialogue. Within hours, videos made with the tool were flooding social media. Hollywood studios called it a copyright crisis. The Motion Picture Association issued a formal statement, and Elon Musk saw the demos and posted a warning that sums up the entire industry. It's happening fast. Chinese state media had a different name for it. They called it the second Sputnik moment. The second, because the first one happened just last year. And that story, the one most Americans still don't fully understand, is the reason this keeps happening. It's the reason China's AI industry is accelerating at a pace that nobody in Washington predicted. And it all started with the United States making what may have been the biggest strategic mistake of the decade. For years, Nvidia has been the most important company in artificial intelligence. Their chips are the engine that powers every major AI model on Earth. OpenAI needs them to run ChatGPT. Google needs them for Gemini. Meta needs them for Llama. Without Nvidia chips, modern AI does not exist. By 2021, China knew this too. Chinese tech companies and research labs were buying Nvidia processors as fast as they could. One buyer was a quantitative hedge fund in Hangzhou that used AI to predict stock prices. They purchased over 10,000 Nvidia A100 chips. At the time, nobody outside of China's finance world paid any attention. Why does that matter? Because of what the United States did next. In October 2022, the Biden administration imposed sweeping export controls. America banned the sale of its most advanced AI chips to China. The A100 was banned. The H100, Nvidia's next generation, was banned before China could even place an order. American officials called it the most significant technology restriction since the Cold War. The strategy made sense on paper. Nvidia controlled over 80% of the AI chip market. Cut off the chips, and you cut off China's ability to compete. But there was a problem. That hedge fund in Hangzhou had already stockpiled its chips before the ban took effect. In May 2023, its founder launched a new company, not another hedge fund, an artificial intelligence lab. He called it DeepSeek, and what DeepSeek built should not have been possible. But to understand why it broke Wall Street, you need one number. OpenAI spent over $100 million building GPT-4. They used 25,000 of Nvidia's most powerful H100 chips. That is the cost of building a world-class AI model. Or at least, that's what everyone in Silicon Valley believed. DeepSeek built a model that matches GPT-4. They used 2,000 chips, not H100s, but the older, less powerful H800s that were the last generation China could legally buy. Their total compute cost was $5.6 million. 100 million versus 6 million. 25,000 chips versus 2,000. And the cheaper model doesn't just compete. On advanced mathematics, it actually wins. On the American Invitational Mathematics exam, DeepSeek's R1 scored higher than OpenAI's best reasoning model. The entire American AI strategy was built on one assumption, that more chips equals better models. That the country with the most Nvidia GPUs wins the race. DeepSeek didn't just challenge that assumption, it demolished it. On January 20th, 2025, DeepSeek released R1 as a free open-source model. Within a week, the DeepSeek app hit #1 on the Apple App Store in America, knocking ChatGPT to second place. Then came Monday, January 27th, 2025. This is where it hits home. Nvidia opened lower, and it kept falling, 17% in a single day. $593 billion of market value evaporated. And it was not just Nvidia. The shockwave tore through the entire tech sector. Chip makers, software companies, even energy stocks that powered AI data centers lost a quarter of their value overnight. In total, over $1 trillion was wiped from American tech stocks in a single session, the biggest single-day loss for any company in the history of the stock market. The timing was brutal. Just days earlier, President Trump had announced Stargate, a $500 billion AI infrastructure project with OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle. The biggest AI investment in history, meant to guarantee American dominance. And a free Chinese app had just called the entire premise into question. Mark Andreessen, one of the most powerful tech investors in Silicon Valley, called DeepSeek one of the most amazing and impressive breakthroughs he had ever seen. Even Nvidia's own CEO, Jensen Huang, called it incredibly exciting. But the real question was the one nobody in Washington wanted to answer. Did America's chip ban actually make China stronger? The export controls were designed to freeze China's AI development. Instead, they forced Chinese engineers to innovate under constraint. When you can't brute force your way to a solution with unlimited hardware, you have to be smarter about software. DeepSeek's team built an architecture that has 671 billion parameters, but only activates 37 billion for any given task. The system runs lean because it had to. Every chip had to count. Every watt had to matter. They didn't just build a competitive model. They proved that the entire American approach, to spend hundreds of billions, buy the most chips, and build the biggest data centers, might be wildly inefficient. And that brings us back to 3 days ago, because what ByteDance just did with Seedance 2.0 is the same playbook. A Chinese company working with fewer resources, building something that rivals or beats what American companies have spent billions trying to create. Hollywood is panicking, Silicon Valley is watching, and the pattern is now impossible to ignore. DeepSeek proved you don't need expensive chips to build world-class AI. Seedance is proving you don't need Hollywood budgets to create professional video content. And both came from a country that the United States tried to lock out of the race entirely. The story of DeepSeek isn't really about one company or one app. It's about what happens when you try to contain innovation by cutting off resources, and the people you're trying to contain figure out they never needed those resources in the first place. America bet $500 billion that more hardware equals better AI. China just proved that it doesn't. Twice. The question isn't whether China is catching up anymore. The question is whether America is paying attention.